Welcome to episode 47 of our board gaming podcast, A Master's Degree in Rolling Terribly. I'm your host, Detty. I'm joined today by a man whose contribution to the party can be best described as identifying and creating problems. Gaz! Say hi, Gaz.
Hi, Gaz. I feel like we have a listener to thank for that intro.
There's a few in the pipe.
Is there? Oh, wow. It's become a popular thing.
I just wrote it in our Discord once. And
it just
I
bombarded.
got the instant reply, and then I've got, hey, here's another one.
Here's another one.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I appreciate that one. It is. I've always thought of myself as someone who can point out problems and then solve them.
Do you solve them?
Sometimes.
You point out problems. I agree.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's true. Sometimes they're for other people to solve.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and we just had a board game night, and I was the person like kind of doing the rules, and I said to Detty, "This is shit," because anytime anyone had a question, I had to look it up in the rules and figure it out. So that's usually me. I'm like, "Hey, Detty, how does this work? Because this seems busted," and you're like, "I don't know why."
Every time you took a sigh, you sighed and then reached for it, and I'm just like, oh, this is so good right now. Like I don't want to rub it in live because you were getting frustrated at some points. I just felt it.
Yeah.
But I loved it.
Yeah. And I like rules and stuff, but it was because we had 7 people and it's holding up the group.
Yeah.
Like we can't continue forward. If it was just me sitting there looking through the rules, like, hey, how does this work? Oh, cool, I'll have a look. But it's because it was holding the game up. That's the part. Anyway, that's same with Frosthaven, actually. I think I will ask questions about how something could work, but I'm always hesitant to because I don't want to hold up the game.
But that's how your mind works around like games like this.
Yeah.
You want to make sure you understand everything very clearly. You got people who want to go in with like scenario rules, for example, or like boss rules or special rules, and I'll read the whole thing out. And it makes sense to most of us. So we're like, yeah, cool, like go with it. But you're the one that'll pull up a key part in there to make sure that we're getting that like small aspect right. And sometimes we're not, and that clarity really helps.
Yeah.
So, it serves a purpose.
Yeah, hopefully. Hopefully it's not just annoying. So at least, look, I feel like I'd much rather do that every time than not do it. And then the one time in 10 scenarios where we go on, we record the podcast, we say, wow, that was so easy. We did so well. We did this. And someone's like, excuse me, did you read the card? And we're like, oh, that's embarrassing. So I'm trying to save us from embarrassment.
That's fair. And I think saving us from embarrassment. I mean, I'm doing the opposite. I'm trying to make us, more embarrassed. So the synergy. So yeah, we are recording in person because we had a event yesterday where we invited some friends over and Gaz stayed over. So we woke up and we're like, oh, we may as well record it today. We didn't get to record it on Friday, so we get to do it in person, which is always cool. And we haven't done it since I think scenario 14. I think it was right before Game Mania.
Wow.
I think it was the last time you actually made an episode in person.
Yeah. Was that after 14? I remember talking about 14, but I wasn't sure if it was like talking about 14 because we just had like post-traumatic syndrome about remembering it and we wanted to talk about it or something. Or
we went into that episode really excited because of Game Mania. So even though we just had 14, it was like still really
high
so
energy.
pumped.
Okay, cool. All right. So from now on, we just had to have a big event before we record about a shitty scenario.
After. We had to have the event after the shitty scenario.
Yeah. So we're pumped going into it. It's like, you can't bring me down.
No.
Right? Yeah.
But we're still going to shit on the scenario.
Yeah, definitely. And that's the most fun. That's the whole reason we started the podcast, right?
That's true. So yeah, we did play a few games last night. Do you want to have a quick 3-minute chat about some of the games we played last night?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I'll talk.
Yeah. Well, we played The Thing. Gaz recommended me The Thing because he played it with his friends. There's been this many implementations of the actual Thing board game. It's a what do they call it? A public IP? What do they say?
It must be, yeah, because it's like super old, right?
Yeah.
So it's like in the
public domain or something.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. So
well, what was funny was I remember I was telling you about it, and you're like, "Yeah, I've got that," and we're like, "Oh, okay, cool." And then you're like, "Oh no, you have the Thing infected outpost or something like that." No, this is the Thing, just the Thing,
just the Thing,
the Thing. And
why has no one come up with the game The Thing?
Yeah,
everyone had to have something afterwards.
Who knows?
So yeah, we got to play that. You played that before. You played it with AP boards. It's kind of like I put it as a social deduction kind of game. A little bit like BSG.
Yep.
A little bit like Den of Winter, all those sort of games. And you came to me with like high praise for a game that can play up to 8 people in a relatively short amount of time, like 90 to 120 minutes. So we got a chance to actually play that last night. We got 2 games in, and other than obviously the rules part, which was probably the longest part, it went off really, really well.
Yeah, I think it went well. Like I liked it because it was
This is the 2022 release, by the way, if anyone's wanting to know which version of the thing.
Yeah, so we played last night with 7, and another game was 6, and I've played it previously. Before that, I played 2 games with 8 people, and all of those games have still gone really quick.
Yeah.
And because of the way it's set up, and you take your actions and you do the things, you don't really get stuck. You get stuck in the arguments,
yes,
which is the fun part of those games.
Yep.
Like the analysis paralysis, should I move here? What's my efficiency, et cetera, is not the fun part of a big 8-player social game, right? It's like TI. The fun part of the interactions, not the APing the map, right? And this, I think, does a good job of taking a lot of the burden, not all of it, but a lot of the burden away from the decisions. And we got to points where we're like, oh, guys, we're going around. And we're like, oh, it's actually just that person's decision because they're in charge.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter what we say. They have the say of what happens right now.
Yeah.
And that just speeds it along because, again, different personalities can get, oh, I don't know. I'm going to listen to that person go.
True.
Or we have points where, like, Mangy was just like, I'm gambling, go.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care. I'm just doing it, right?
Yeah.
And so it just kept moving it along. And I think, again, I appreciate it for that. It's not a perfect game, but I think for what the game's trying to do, it probably does it. One of the best versions of that type of game I've played.
Agreed. And now I'd played it, so it was very quick. But also your actions are very quick. Like you're literally picking one card and you're giving it to the leader, and then he's just going through almost like a line of actions that everyone can do, and they're so fast. So you don't really get locked into an AP kind of thing, apart from the conversation part of I'm going over here, and then everyone's like, oh no, what are you doing? And that's when things get exciting. Other than that, it's very, very I think it looks like a lot. But then, yes, I think it's once you get over that initial, and a lot of games do that, where you look at it and you've just got pieces everywhere and spaces everywhere, and it's overwhelming. You get through that initial barrier, it's actually quite clean.
Yeah. But I do apologize to any of our group that's listening that I should have learnt the rules better so that I didn't spend 2 hours explaining them. But I think once we got them down, we got through the games pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So we can pick that up and play it again. And I think, again, and this for our group is amazing. The fact that we got through a game in 2 hours, any game ever, right, is that's unheard of.
Yeah, it's a record.
Yeah.
Nice.
What does it say on the box?
I don't know.
Can't see from here.
No, I reckon they probably said half an hour.
Yeah, it's probably like 20 to 30 minutes. And we're like, oh, we did it in 2 hours. Wow, that's only 4 times. That's about standard for us.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just want to quickly talk about, and I feel like a lot of people will be aware of the game. We also played a quick game of modern art last night as well,
Love that game.
which is Ryan Canisia's pure auction game, which is phenomenal. And we played 4 people because a lot of people would have gone home by then. So we were up to about 2 a.m., I think, playing that. And that game always has a lot of fun. It's one of the first, only, I guess, open bidding game that's just pure bidding. That's literally the whole game.
The game is, yeah.
And I'd highly recommend anyone having a look into that because it's just very fun. You're determining your own economy. You can't put a price on anything. It's all based on the table. So every table is going to have a vastly different experience to what everyone else will have. And I think it just nails it in a short amount of time.
Well, that's
and you're engaged the whole time.
Yeah, because we had a couple of people going, like you said, and it was like our game. And I just thought, I'm going to suggest a game, modern art. And we're like, yeah, sure. Because it's fun. You don't have to think, right? There's no thinking, really, because you're mathing things out. You can a little bit, but it's all there. And then you just get to make jokes and talk about why people are buying shit art for the, different.
It allows you to role play.
Yeah.
It allows you to role play the country you're in, the gallery, the actual artists, each other.
It's so funny.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. So on today's episode, we're actually going to cover scenario 77, Fish King's Ascension, which is the final quest in Phil's PQ. All right, so it looks like if we complete it, Phil may retire. Who knows?
Who knows?
We're going to talk about 2 classes we've recently unlocked. Just going to dive a little bit into that, and we might cover a little bit of house rules. I think that they are starting to make I think it's just due. I think it's due for a house.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Like we're probably once every 20 episodes.
I don't know if they're the most enjoyable to listen to, but they're the most enjoyable to talk about.
Well, maybe I'll spice it up this time and throw some controversial questions out there.
To the public?
To you.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
no. I don't want that. All right. So on the way to scenario 77, we had a boat event.
Did we?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that whole thing is like underwater, with the exception of
that's true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the invasion at the dock, which was in Frosthaven. So, boat events. Look, this one was number 5. I've just got one keyword here. It's Titanic. So I think it was basically. I think we're coming across a bunch of glaciers or
That's
something
right.
like that.
Yeah. Okay. And it was like hammer through or go around. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It was kind of like that, and I think we chose the hammer through.
Yeah.
And it was dependent. The first one that was dependent on the season.
That's right. Yeah. Because it wasn't so bad, but it would have been really bad if it had been winter. Yes.
So yeah, we're in summer at the moment. So apparently that affects how strong icebergs are. I don't know if the Titanic saw this.
They should have gone in summer.
Correct.
Okay.
It could have been something like that. But no, it was fine. What are your thoughts on how the boat events have been since we unlocked them?
I think it's cool that there's a different place, but yeah, I don't know.
I'm waiting for them to be as good as what we've seen with some of the not the outposts so much, but the road events. I don't know. Is it because they're a little bit
You're on a boat.
Yeah, you're restricted. So other than odd things you find in the ocean along the way, what else can happen on a boat?
I mean, yeah, it is tricky. I agree. I reckon most of them have just been fine. Like none of them have been amazing and none of them have been crap.
No.
But they have just been fine.
Yeah.
And I guess, yeah, we haven't seen any of those really different ones. Like you come across some form of puzzle or there's a different interaction you've got to do. You've got multiple choices or things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I guess I'm whelmed. I guess they're not amazing. I'm so excited to do one only because there's the potential of a returning character.
Yeah,
that's the only thing that's really exciting.
I know. Me too. And that's why I'm worried that we aren't going to have enough boat events left because we're pretty much finished the lurker chain, and then this was a water chain. So I'm like, we need to find more boat events to be able to draw out of the deck.
Well, looking at the scenarios, looking at the map, there's still a lot of ones in random water places up north that might be job postings. So there's a chance that we'll uncover more.
I just question without notice, because why not?
Yeah.
How do you feel about characters coming back in event decks where there's a possibility that you never see them again?
I think that I love it, but I think it needs to be consistent. So you've got some coming back via section, and then you've got the rest coming back via event. And that's where it kind of grays it. Now, there may be a reason because some of the characters coming back, like the Gemini came back and gave us a sticker. We may not have had that sticker, right? So that's something that's important. It needs to be in a section event. All the ones that are section events important, like the Drifter came back and made us a blueprint. Is that important? Like, that's where I'm at. So if they all came back from memory, Gloomhaven brought them back in the events.
Yep.
Right? So this is doing a mixture, which I think it's just the mixture part. I think it's consistent. Either make them all events, but then there's a chance, but there's a chance, and then some of the characters are sections, so you're guaranteed it. I don't know. I just feel like they should have stuck with one or the other.
Yeah, I think the outcome is a bit disappointing if you didn't get to see the character come back. I think that's just the only thing I would say. And I don't know, I'm not trying to think of a fix or anything like that, because I think I agree in a sense that it would be good if it was consistent, because you kind of know. But yeah, the fact that you might have these retiring characters, especially if you retire them late, like, you know, if a road event is a bit different, outpost event again a bit different, because you're going to be going through them all the time, right? But boat event, for example, again, we've got there's still 10, 15 cards in that deck or something like that, right? Maybe 10. And I don't know how many water things we've got left. And I think we just put a new one in, something like that. So it's not thinning down.
No.
It's not definite. Maybe it is definite. Maybe they've calculated that. So by the end, if you do all the scenarios, you always draw the last one. So you guarantee it. That could be the case.
Maybe.
And so maybe it's only this is the example of one. But yeah, I don't know. Just if you didn't get a character to come back after they retired, it just seemed like a bit of a flavor miss.
Well, I just retired the Shackles a few weeks back. I don't remember I don't think that was a section event that went into the calendar. I'm pretty sure it was an event that's gone into one of the decks. I don't remember which one. Yeah. Now, I could be completely messing all of this up and it is a section event somewhere, or I've just failed to write something down. But yeah, it's a situation now where I'm like, I'd like to see it again, but You know,
Yeah.
we don't know if we will.
I guess it's kind of like a have your cake and eat it thing. It's like, okay, I want to be surprised because when you don't know it's coming and then you draw it and then it starts talking, you get that, oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, you're back. This is really cool. And it's a really cool moment. But I also want to guarantee they're always going to come back. So it's like, well, hang on. You kind of can't do both. I need consistency, but I also want to be randomly surprised by it. So,
well, when you get towards the end of the campaign, you're still going to be potentially, let's say we get towards the end and finally we unlock the kelp, right? Or the astral. We unlock astral and we've got 3 scenarios left before we finish the game. That character's not retiring, right?
True.
And then you're not going to ever see, I don't know, that you're never going to see all of them, basically, unless you go back and do go casual mode or something. But then that doesn't count. I don't know. The whole casual mode thing confuses the hell out of me. So, yeah, we don't do it.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah.
Cool.
So scenario 77, Fish King's Ascension. All right. So the scenario goal for this one, this is, I'm not going through the whole history of it, but we've covered this quite recently. We pissed off the Fish King. He's trying to unite the scales so that he can, I think, form, summon, manifest, become this ancient slumbering god that lives in the ocean, the Leviathan, right? And because we chose not to join him and allow him to do this, we have to now stop him. And we keep going back to Frosthaven and then sailing back out there to chip at the next one because we don't like 4 scenarios. And we've been not liking them for a while. So the scenario is complete when the Fish King is dead. So at the end of that round, we read a thing. Going into this recording, did you remember a scenario?
No, I had no idea.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Until even when you mentioned Fish King before, I didn't remember. Like I knew what we were doing. Like I knew the quest, but I didn't know any of the details until you just mentioned something about him being dead, and now I remember the layout of the room and what we did. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm all over it now.
Because also we're 6 days out from playing.
Yeah, it is. It feels like forever ago because we're playing tomorrow.
Yes.
So like, yeah,
this is one of the later recordings.
Yeah.
So scenario goal is complete when we kill him. Scenario effect. Everyone starts with Bane. All right.
Yeah.
This was a very fun, spicy intro at the very beginning. Special rules. The Fish King occupies all 3 ice spikes. He cannot perform any move abilities and he's immune to forced movement. Okay, so he's just chilling on this triangle array of hazardous terrain. There's no line of sight between map tiles and no figure can teleport or find a focus between them. Now, we don't know the map layout, right? We only know the initial one. Frosthaven Scenario Viewer hides the actual full map layout. So that's important to us because we don't know what that means. Other people would sort of see roughly because they know what tiles are in use and currently where they're laid out.
So rules as written, you're allowed to look at the map.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Because I know we have the monsters because we have them on Xhaven.
Yes.
And I know
technically you're allowed to look at that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that from Gloomhaven. You're allowed to know what monster types are in because it can affect different things. But you are also allowed to look at the whole map.
Yeah. It shows you a layout. Just like this tile is going to go here and then this one here, but it doesn't fill them up with monsters or tell you where they are. So you can't meta how you're going to go into a room.
Yeah. But so that again is that us?
That's a house rule
that's making it harder.
Yes,
okay, cool. Because we'll talk about this later. So
we don't know how deep a dungeon is.
Yeah.
The only clue we have are the section links, but the section things. But we don't know if they're triggering an opening of a room or if they're triggering a event.
Yeah.
The only thing that's hinting to us is doors.
Yeah,
that's literally it. If a door's in the setup, we know there's a second room.
Okay,
but we don't know how deep it goes.
Yeah, that's cool. We love surprises.
Yeah. So yes, one of our house rules. The Bane thing scenario effect is really interesting because that triggers on our first turn, at the end of our first turn. So literally the first turn of the game has to be, this is the only scenario this has happened. So it's no longer getting Bane and then, you've got time to really work through it. Turn 1, you have to deal with that, which is really interesting.
Yep.
The boss specials. So boss special 1 is he never moves. He's doing an attack, a weakish attack targeting all adjacent enemies and then push 2. So he pushes everyone further away from him. And then he summons one piranha pig in an adjacent space next to him. Now, summon instead of spawns, which is handy. Boss special 2, my favorite, was focus the furthest attackable enemy and performs a move 0 attack 6 for our difficulty, and it's a pull 4 with a poison. And then he kills the closest piranha pig, and all enemies adjacent to the hex that the pig occupied suffers trap damage, which on paper is fucking gross.
Yeah, 5 damage. Like stack
plus the 6 you took from
if you're hit by the thing as well. Yeah.
That's kind of what we're working with. Section links. The first time the Fish King is reduced to 3/4 of its max, right? At most 3/4 of its max health, we read a thing. Same thing for half health, same thing for quarter. And this did lead to, there was nothing that was it in the section links. We've met this guy before. We have had a situation where he reached half health and we essentially would have one-shot him. The half health thing didn't trigger a second phase. It just triggered the end of the scenario. We didn't know that at the time. So now we've gone into this one with a Fish King that has 64 health.
Which is not a lot.
We still have a level 9 Bling Blade.
Yeah.
So yeah, already warning bells were going off as we were entering a boss scenario in this exact setting and setup. Challenge cards. We had Arcane Tactics. So Arcane Tactics was the one that whenever one or more elements move from waning to inert, so middle to low, at the end of the round, one character suffers hazardous terrain damage. We weren't too sure how to process that one at the time, but it seemed good. And then we had Caltrops, which has come up before, but we haven't picked. Characters and allies treat hexes with loot tokens as hazardous terrain, but it doesn't affect enemies. I don't remember which pets we brought along with this. I have a feeling one of them might have been... No, I really don't.
What dog? I feel like what dog? I feel like we all had a crack at what dog. And Lunacy. Yeah, Lunacy.
It was Lunacy.
Yeah, Lunacy and what
Was it
the card? Stu's the card back, yeah?
No, that's the what? Did we get a card back one? I thought we got the heal one.
Yeah, I think we got the heal one because we figured out after we managed the Bane situation at the start, we could have popped Stu and it would have just fixed it for everyone.
That's right.
Yeah.
So yeah, Stu, the Forest Imp, and Lunacy, welcome back. Monster combinations of Fish King, the Frost Demons, Night Demons, Wind Demons, which aren't on the board at all, and there are no spawn spaces at all, so a little bit weird. And Piranha Pigs, there's only 2 Piranha Pigs on the board. So the starting setup is, it's a largish room, there are obstacles in multiple places, there's the Fish King sitting on 3 hexes and 2 pigs, and that's it.
Yep.
Initial thoughts?
I was really excited for this one going into it.
Yeah.
And then the setup, I was also still pretty excited. So boss scenarios we've talked at length about, and so I'm always very hesitant going into them because I'm like, is this just going to be, we're going to spend an hour and a half, 2 hours just to set up, break down what we probably could have just skipped, right? And so that's always a thing in the back of my mind. But the designers for all of this chain just been blown out of the water. They've been great. They've been really, really good. Even the more vanilla ones still had a thing to them that made them interesting. And the first time we encountered the Fish King was a boss scenario. And that was, again, one of the more memorable ones because it didn't feel like a boss scenario, right? There was the flotsam one where we got to do surfing, a whole bunch of cool things, spawns, phases, all that kind of shit. So this one, I was like, surely they have that this is going to be the explosion that is the amazing kind of design of this quest chain.
Did it help? If you look at this in isolation, did it help having all of the previous ones from the same designers going into it and also having, I guess, a story that we're following into it as opposed to this is a random side scenario? Would your excitement be different?
Yeah, I think there was expectations because they had been so good.
Yes.
Like so I'm like, unless they just dropped the ball, right? Or they got like overrid by Isaac. It's like, no, boss scenarios have to be really boring, right? Like I was expecting it to be good. And I think the thing that gave me like 64 health, when I saw that, I'm like, oh no, what have they done?
Yeah.
Did they not realize that we've got a blink blade? But the phases made me go, okay, cool. This is one of the things we spoke about with like what makes a good boss battle was having something that changes. You know, you go into it, you do a thing, and then the battlefield changes. Something changes to make it mix it up a bit. So it's not just stand next to it and right click, right? So that's why, and we had all these demons that weren't on the board. We had no spawns.
Yep.
So something was clearly going to happen.
Yep.
My only concern
The thresholds. Yeah.
was what happens, and it didn't say. It does say once you do it, which is good, so it fixed it. But like, could we skip a threshold?
Yeah.
Could Phil just go do 40 damage to it and be like, oh, I went from that to that? Oh, okay.
Because you were asking me, and I was like, I don't know. And you're like, should we check the FAQ? Should we look into it? And it made sense because we, had run into this before. But it's good that they had thought of this.
100%. Again, it's not that I think the designers are going to miss things, but I'm always really careful in case they do, or in case we miss it and it has been picked up in the FAQ. So I'm constant. Now that we're further in, I know early on it was like, there's not much stuff from the FAQ for the first quarter of the game, right? Now that we're getting further in, and we're doing random scenarios all over the place, I'm a lot more conscious of like, we should check that in case.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you jump on Reddit and see, and I know you do the community look and people are like, oh, how does this work? How does that work? And some of those things we don't even consider.
No.
We're like, shit, we didn't get confused by that, but maybe we should have been like stuff like that. So I just get, again, it's just this, I want to do it right. I want to make sure we got the rules right to start with. And it was just checking that stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, I've just written down the line of sight rules were a little bit interesting. Special 2 and 1 are also interesting. It feels like a DPS race, but, well, it is, but also the fact that he's going to spawn a piranha pig on special 1 means that, yeah, there's going to constantly be this danger of exploding pigs ultimately next to us, which is actually quite brutal.
Yeah.
Whilst we also try to work out how to burst him down. Yeah, so, yeah, we basically started this one out and 2 pigs and a boss, fairly vanilla.
Yeah.
At least at the beginning. I think at the very beginning though, I think he did use a special 2 on me, and this was the beginning of a wonderful pattern because the other interesting thing is our spawn locations are in the corner of the room, so we're all separate, which is, I don't know, again, unusual. We're all coming from different angles, and he picks the furthest person, which happened to me for one of his things is everyone moves forward, and I get yanked all the way up to him. Which kind of ruins a lot of my positioning. I'm playing media, so I want hazardous terrain in certain locations, and I really don't like being pulled out of position. And it kept happening to me. I think we did dispatch the pigs, and then I think Phil went into threshold mode and started chipping away.
Yeah, I think he blew pig up, hit a bunch of us. But yeah, he pretty much did special 1 to pull you closer. And then, did special 2. He spawned, yeah, it was pretty easy. I mean, the thing is, there wasn't much on the board.
No.
So there was a decent amount of damage coming out.
The very first thing we had to do was you had to take the bane off us.
Yeah. So I healed everybody with the heal thing and then healed myself with a potion. So we didn't have to worry about the bane. So, I mean, that's 40 damage that we didn't have to worry about. Like
that's my health almost. All right. I got like 12.
Yeah. So
it was very important.
Yeah. So getting rid of that was important. And I think, again, once we nullified that, which... This is the interesting thing, right? If we didn't have a AoE heal everybody on the map type thing, then it would be a case of, well, how are you going to get it past that? Like everyone would have to dedicate resources to doing it and blowing potions early or something like that. Because, I mean, you got to heal 6, even if you're on full, you may as well use it to save 10, right? Like...
The other problem with this, though, is special 2 also, the person he targets poisons them every time. So that with... I've only got very minimal ways of healing myself, and all of a sudden, yeah, that poison just becomes the bane of my existence and everything. So Phil actually, goes through and annihilates the first time, and this is the first chance we get to see some of the phasing. So we unlock the next section. It spawns a room with 3 wind demons and a green orb in the middle. And basically, the new rules are for starters, you have to set the Fish Kings to 3/4 of its max. So even if Phil hit it for 60. That threshold, we just read that bit and it says now reset its health back up to 3/4 of its max, which was amazing. That's what we wanted. We wanted something to factor that in so that we couldn't cheese it. And then he becomes immune. So he heals up and he becomes immune, which is also really good. Now, also immune is really interesting because you can still technically attack him, which is something we thought about for any reasons like creating elements and all that kind of stuff. Now you can actually sacrifice, any character can sacrifice 1 movement when they're adjacent to him to then teleport to the newly spawned room, which is not connecting to this one like manually. And this is explaining the line of sight between the 2 rooms. You go in there and then, you fight the 3 wind demons. And then once those 3 are dead, you get to come back ultimately. And then it was, like a team thing, right? It was trying to work out who goes down, who doesn't go down. And I think I never went down. I spent most of this scenario working around Quenched Rage, pretty much. And just, and that was really hard because I was waiting for him to spawn pigs. He wasn't spawning pigs. It was super awkward for me because, I'm just waiting for all that. And then when I finally have Quenched Rage ready, like I'm waiting for him to not be immune.
Yeah. Okay.
It just was a real interesting experience for me.
And for those playing at home who haven't seen the media or don't know what Quenched Rage is, it's a persistent that Detty puts down. Yes. And do you want to explain it to the...
Yeah, it's a persistent that I use. It's a bottom persistent that ultimately has 4 of those little circles on it. And it's got 4 charges essentially. So the next 3 attacks that I perform have -1 to their attack. but then the final one is doubled.
Doubled, yep.
Doubled the actual attack.
And if you've watched the unboxing of when we kind of looked at the Meteor recently, there's a magical Christmas land where we double, right? So, you double, there's another card, he's got the doubles, then he pulls his crit and doubles, and this is how we're getting to 80, potentially even 160 if we can somehow get brittle on it, right?
And if I get the lucky dice and I pull like 2 crits.
There you go. I mean, like 320 damage there, done. I think in that case, Frosthaven just blows up as well.
Yeah, okay.
So Detty's playing around that.
Yeah.
Which means that he doesn't really want to blow a double damage on an immune boss.
Not on an immune boss, no.
That seems really bad.
Yeah.
Like
still goes in the meters.
Zero. I don't think it does. It's immune. It's immune.
Yeah, okay.
So, yeah. But anyway, we went down to the Orb Land and we started fighting things.
Did you go down?
I did on the first one. So this was an interesting balance. I'm playing the Banner Spear. Almost all of my abilities require another person there. So the conversation comes up fairly regularly of like, well, can you go deal with that? I'm like, not unless someone else is also there dealing with that. So I think I think
Phil went down for the first one. I think you and Mark went down for the second or the third one.
Yeah, okay, maybe.
I think Phil definitely went down because Phil's blink blade, so blinking around multiple movements, multiple stabs, and he was just carving his way through the wind demons.
Something like that, yeah.
I think Mark may have gone down with him, but came back up fairly quickly.
Actually, no. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like me and Mark did the first one because I think Phil had movement left at the end of his turn, but maybe I'm.
You were definitely down on the third one.
I think maybe there's a different one. I'm
Yeah.
thinking. Yeah, but anyway, they ended up being
you and Mark
3.
deal with Frost Demons.
Yeah,
I remember the
okay.
Frost Demons because you guys were lining up.
That were the
for
second
those.
ones.
Third. Night Demons were second.
Okay, yeah, cool. Yeah, so anyway, it was a kind of combination of who can make it down there, who can actually do something,
Timing of initiatives when the monsters go. So going down after they activate was also probably really important.
Yep.
And then Phil obviously can go invisible, so he can go down there and set up as much as he wants while the rest of us, me especially, are just dancing around and not getting pulled. Because every now and then, I mean, the boss is still activating. He's still pulling me in every time I try to move away. I got pulled like 5 times.
Yeah.
So-
Marcus trying to wait for him to summon a piranha pig.
Same.
And then we can get it down low enough so that Mark can catch it with the net for his PQ.
Yeah.
But the problem was that any time he summoned, the next turn directly he would explode it.
Yeah.
It's like, so he never really got the chance.
No. So yeah, we went through the same cycle ultimately, and nothing eventful really happened to change the pattern of what was happening. It was destroy the wind demons.
One thing, when we destroyed the orb, we would all go back to the corners of the room. So that's true. That was important. We didn't just all spawn back at him. So then we had to run back in to hit him and then again go through the orb process. So yeah.
Yes, that's right. So yeah, we would, and then he would come out of his immunity. I think the second time we all laid into him a little bit and pushed him over that threshold. Then the tile respawns with different demons on there and the orb, and it's the same mechanic. Go in there, deal with them while the Fish King's still active. And you do this ultimately 3 times, each for each threshold of his health, from 3/4 to half to 1/4. And then he ultimately, I think the final one, you were down there with Phil. I know that's because you weren't you weren't with the Fish King when he eventually died. Because yes, we killed him. But you were down there and you somehow managed to then come back up and then move up to him and say, I'm just going to hit him. Yeah.
And I hit him for lots. Well, I could have hit him for lots.
So you hit him with rolling things and advantage. And you chose not to crit him.
Yeah, I did actually. It did because I'm a team player. That's why. So I think on the last turn, I had it set up in the cards I could see. I was able to move up next to him, use one of my formations, use my special item for being a Banner Spear, which allows you to kind of treat a certain hex as having a friendly person in it. So it kind of helped me do that. And I did my level 7 card, I think it is, which is an attack 7. So I was like, oh, great, cool. I'm going to have advantage. This is awesome.
Now, mind you, he's only on like 12 health or 15 health or something like that at this stage.
Yeah.
And I'm on the last tick of Quenched Rage. And I previously had played the level 2 card, Something Fury. And that's going to also double my next attack. So I'm doubling the next one. And everyone's just like, yeah, Detty can get this head off. And this is where Gaz is like, let me just get some XP. Well, I don't need the XP. Let me just hit him.
Yeah, well, I've got an
Why
attack.
not?
I've got an attack 7. He's on like 13 or 14 HP.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't draw +5, right? Like, well, I can draw a crit, but that's not going to happen.
You got the rolling +1.
Oh, but like, it's not going to roll 5 times. Anyway. So I was like, let's just do it. It's just fun because I never get to use this card because it's impossible to get off. So I do it with advantage. And I think I roll into about +3 or 4, right? So I think I'm sitting at about 10, 11 damage. And then with my advantage, I pulled a crit, and I think maybe a 0 or a +1 or something like that. And so, it would have done like 25 damage or 24 damage to it, stuff like that. And I was just like, oh, wow, that was, and you were like, oh, I was like,
I'm next to him just ready.
Yeah, it's like the knockout punch. Like, okay, you hit him and then I'll hit him, and I've just smooshed him, and you're like, oh, okay, well, I was here as well. Yeah. Like the alley oop, right? I've set you up for the alley oop, but instead of alley oop, I've just dunked it from half court. So it's I bet because it's advantage and I get to choose, I've chosen the not crit.
Yes.
So I did about 10 damage to it or something like that.
Yeah.
And then Detty was able to
hit him for 36.
Hit him for 36.
I think it was 36.
Yeah. So
this is something interesting about Quench Rage is it's doubling the attack, right? So the actual attack, and you can actually factor in the poison, I believe, that's on the thing. So it's purely your numbers and then any power potions, etc. But it doesn't double the modifier.
So it's not a crit. It's not like double everything after you've added up everything, including modifier. It's a double your attack,
and
then apply a
So if I draw a +1, you're not adding that +1 to the crit. You're not doubling it to a +2.
That's okay. Good to know.
Yeah.
But interesting. Still. But so it was a kind of funny end to it. You know, it was like, oh, who's gonna do the massive damage to the boss? I wrote
down Quench Rage ... but Gaz timer.
Well, it's like, hey, I get to do something cool, and then cool. I did it, and then you're like, I was going to do something cool too.
Yeah, but you knew before I was going to do something.
But I didn't think I was going to do it that cool, right? But so I ended up, and because it gave you XP,
that's true.
Plus it got you on the meters, made you feel good about yourself.
Got my battle goal.
Got your battle goal as well. So it was actually very important that I let you do that. Yeah.
No. It was important that you hit it. You
needed me to hit it but not kill it. Yes. That's right. So that's why you were like, no, that's fine that you go first. I'm fine with you because you're not gonna
you're gonna kill it.
Why would you do 25 damage in a hit or 24 damage in a hit? Like it's you. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't.
No, I can't. But turns out I can.
So our rewards were we finished the PQ, which is cool. We got a wave blade item. I can't remember. I think it was relatively lackluster.
Oh, it was a giant sword, wasn't it?
No.
Oh
no. It was
rip spoilers.
It was something else. It was definitely something crap.
Okay.
No one's interested. It's one of those ones that as soon as I read it, I kind of don't even say anything. I just put it down somewhere, and then someone else picks it up, and then they read it out loud, and then I'm like, I've already heard it. It's quite average. And then we get another boat event that goes into the event deck, which is really cool.
Except for the fact that it's watering down the deck, so that we have less chance of meeting the crab again.
So the Fish King might come back.
That's true.
For you. Unless you be riding him. Maybe you're riding the Leviathan.
Maybe I'm riding the Leviathan. I am the Leviathan.
There you go.
There we go.
We won't see you though. What were your thoughts on the scenario? 77.
Yeah, for a boss scenario, I think it was good. I think this is where they should be. This is like what's the standard. It wasn't a 10 out of 10. Like I wouldn't be putting this in my top scenarios if we just did a boss scenario top 10, which I think we should now that I just thought of that tier list.
Yeah.
But I think that it's had the elements to be fun without higher level characters as well. Who can burst like we can. It would have a few more rounds. We just had enough people that we could really deal with all the threats kind of quickly.
Yeah.
Right? Like him having, 16 health, I think it is, per phase.
I wonder, because we got really lucky with Boss Summon 1. He kept spamming Boss Summon 2, and there were no Piranha Pigs on the board. So we were never at a stage. We were craving for a Piranha Pigs just to attack something like me while you guys were down there. I was trying to line up the Schlong. I was trying to do all sorts of things. And I was like hoping, and I was playing late initiatives, right? With the purpose of hopefully he goes first and plays his. I didn't know this until recently in our Discord. Boss special 1s are late. They're all quite late. Okay. And boss special 2s are quite early, which is why he was going at 11, a 14, and a 17 with pulling me in. So I never noticed that until now. It's like, how is he? Okay, 14. I've got to beat 14. 11. What the actual hell? So he kept pulling me in. So yeah, waiting for him to spawn, it was always going to be after me anyway if he did do it. And he didn't do it enough. That was the only thing I'm taking away from this, not against the scenario. It was RNG in our favor in that he didn't spawn more Piranha Pigs, which then caused more havoc because then those things are attacking us and then they're blow-up bait for him, right? So I think that would have changed it, especially when those situations where I'm up top with one other person and I'm looking pretty tasty.
Yeah, I don't know, because again, a difficulty scale, I don't want to make it too hard, but I almost feel like when he phased back in out of once we killed the orb, there should have been a spawn with him, like spawn 2 Piranha Pigs. So like he comes back, there's 2 piranha pigs. Because otherwise what was happening, even though we're at opposite corners of the map, it was all just like, all right, just dive bomb him. We're only going to do 16 damage, which is absolutely nothing. Like that's so small.
true.
But especially between 4 people.
4 of us.
Right? It's such a small amount of damage, and then that just triggers the next phase. So I
Putting
feel
piranha pigs, yeah.
it just would mean that if he did draw the piranha pigs usually go pretty quick. So there's a chance one of them gets in the way or slows a person down. So there's, again, doing some damage there. And then there's the danger of them going quick and then him exploding them, right? So it probably maybe makes it a bit more interesting from a what are you going to do? Because I found that after each phase we were there and we're just like, okay, so everyone just run to the middle, right? Run to the middle and kill him, and then be in the middle so that he can do the orb, and then you can go through and go kill the demons. Like it just seemed to be a process.
Yeah.
But again, I think the
We were
design
well
is really
ahead of the tempo almost, yeah.
yeah. That's I think that's the best way of putting it. We were way ahead of the tempo, which meant that it was always going to be like kind of just
Manageable,
easy. Yeah. So, but look, I love the design.
Yes.
I think the design was really good.
Yep.
It just maybe was a bit undertuned for that. Maybe we just because we're high level. Like we've got a level 9 Blink Blade and a level 9 Banner Spear. I mean, I'm pretty much irrelevant, but Phil's pumping damage out. You're doing a decent amount of damage. Okay, like Mark's doing a decent amount of damage and running around and punching things. Like, so I think collectively, I wonder what would happen if you got this with an earlier party.
Yeah, I think it's fun. I definitely think it'll be fun even with an early party. It's a boss scenario that you could probably do multiple times. Not that that's really a thing, but you know what I mean? I'd like to see it with different party compositions. I think it'll be interesting.
Yeah, I just feel like each phase needed to have a different condition that changed the top zone. So the phasing went into an elemental realm, but it might have been cool if like we started the thing with Bane and then the next phase we started with Wound and Poison or something like that.
Yeah.
Right? Or it's just something like that. Or then you started with Impair. Like just a condition each time that was different so that it was like a slightly different puzzle to solve.
Yeah.
And then you had to kind of solve that and come together. So
I think there's a world where someone from Cephala Fair who is like listening to us and he's just like, wonder if the damn guy, should we get him in for a PQ like to create one? Maybe just one scenario. And then they hear some of this conversation, they're like, no,
not at all. Or maybe we should, so that when they design it, we can sit there and make a podcast where we shit on them, right? And that's the thing. I just want to be super clear. I'm not shitting on these guys at all. I think they did an amazing job, and I'm just more thinking about from our play experience where things were too easy, and I'm not saying this scenario was too easy, but we found parts of this one a bit easy. I'm just thinking about little things you could do to spice it up.
Yep.
But then we could be having this conversation with those things in it. And go like, how dumb is this? You just killed these monsters. You come back and now suddenly I'm wounded and poisoned. Like this is dumb, or I'm immobilized, or what idiot thought of this, right? So it's
yes.
Look, I'm really keen when we get to the community part and you kind of talk through how the community, because I love hearing people go, "Oh my god, this was impossible. We couldn't do it." And
there wasn't a lot of that.
No,
there really wasn't. The only thing that really stood out to me, other than just general chit chat about it, was the boss's immunity portion with summons, because the summons are still focusing on the boss, so you can't get them to do anything else unless you have grant movement. So they're just using all of their attacks and all that on the boss instead of, going down to, they can't bring them down kind of thing unless they summon them down there. Like, I'm not too sure how it's all going to work out, but that was something that people were saying it's annoying that normally when there's nothing to do, they can reposition them or get them to come back to them or work around them that way. This time they were just,
Yeah.
That's basically it that I really found on it. So I think the general consensus is it wasn't too challenging, and we didn't get any people that, I'm not too sure how it scales. I assume when you go down, obviously Fish King has less health, and then the scaling of enemies probably is slightly less. But yeah.
Then again, I mean, one of the rooms had 3 night demons, and they can wreck you if you do the wrong thing. So I mean, like those rooms could be really difficult again based on makeup. So we just happen to have a level 9 Blink Blade that can just do whatever it wants.
Yeah, not for long. So, not for long, because he retired.
Huh? Not for long?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he did. Yeah, he's done. See you later.
He's
Now
done.
we all get to play. It's kind of like,
really exciting.
yay.
Yeah. We're going to wait and see how this all pays out. We're 1 or 2 scenarios in, we're like, fuck, we've got no damage.
Where's this Blink Blade? Why did he leave? Come on, come back. Yeah.
So battle goals. Egoists collect more loot tokens than any other character.
Mark?
Yeah, I think he was the one asking. Someone always asks.
Yeah,
How many
yeah,
you got?
yeah.
I think it might have been Mark. He was asking me.
Yeah.
I think he got it. Assistant. Oh, the other thing was the challenge card for loot tokens being hazardous terrain. That was interesting because when he kept spawning the piranha peaks, when he did do it, he was blowing them up next to himself, which left a loot token, which then meant when he pulled someone into him, they were then also entering hazardous terrain, which was a nice little challenge.
Combo.
Yes. Yeah, it was really, really fun. Assistant, kill an enemy attacked by any of your allies earlier in the same round, which hadn't happened at all because
There was nothing to fight.
yeah, there was absolutely nothing to fight. So thank you. You got me
You're
a
welcome.
nice tick there. Closer. Kill the last enemy to die in the scenario. Oh, that was Phil, I think.
Yeah, probably he just picked one. 'Cause
Yeah.
He doesn't need to.
No. And then pin cushion.
That was me.
Did you get it?
No, there was no monsters.
Oh, okay. You did go down.
Yeah, I know. I would have needed to go down first and deliberately get hit a bunch. I'm not going to. I mean, I'm level 9. I don't need. I've full on perks. The only reason I'm getting it is so that I can write like the higher number in the retirement thing. That doesn't do anything.
So we finished up scenario 77. We finished up that PQ. We head back to Frosthaven to do our outpost phase, and we had a section event. It was really cool because it was a mail carrier or something like that came in and was like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And there was a lot of flavor and a lot of chat. I wasn't really remembering what was happening, but they dropped a parcel. They'd lugged the parcel all the way back from Frosthaven Post Office, and it was really heavy. And it turns out this was from the mercenary a while back that we had done a letter to. We had a choice a while back to writing a letter to either a mercenary or someone else, like a merchant or a trader or something like that. Sorry, this was Summer Outpost Event 22. And that's where we got a giant bloody sword.
Oh, a giant sword. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And that was the section event or the.
That was section.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
Sorry. That was the section event.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
And then we had an outpost event, which was Summer Outpost Event 22. And this was, I don't know, it was really sad and not sad at the same time. I can't describe it. The music and the narration were really quiet and calm.
Yeah. Okay.
And it was really strange waiting for something to happen. And it was a boy. And he was chilling by the dock and he was trying to fish.
But he was doing it really wrong.
And he wasn't fishing really well. And then we can pay someone a few coins to give the kid some lessons, or we can spend some time with him and teach him ourselves. I don't remember what we did.
We taught him ourselves.
Did we? Is that the bottom
'cause
one?
We didn't want to spend money.
Yeah, okay. Oh, that's right. The one character thing that we had to discuss and whether or not it was the character that,
Yeah.
fair. So no, that was fine. It was nice. It wasn't anything special. We got morale out of it, which is really cool. So more in the bucket.
That's it. Well, I mean, the good thing is we lost morale for some reason at some point. So when we gained this morale, it just put us back up to the full bucket. So it was we took a sip.
Yeah.
Took a sip out of the bucket.
Well, it's no longer overflowing, right? It's just full.
No, it's full now.
Okay.
So now it'll be overflowing next event. Yeah.
Phil did retire in this phase. He started selling all his stuff and breaking everything down and getting ready. And we were also in the mindset of, do we play a second scenario? It may take some time to work out what he's going to buy and how he's going to set up. It was a lot. And we decided to call it then and have a naturally really early night, which is really good. In the meantime, we have done a bit of an unboxing with the drill. What did I write here? So let me try this again. So will Chill Phil take the thrill of the drill to fill his need to kill, or will he still swill the blue pill and die on the Bling Blade hill and further improve his skill?
Yes. That's good. I like that. That was very well done. Very well done.
Yeah. So
Now say that 3 times fast.
I couldn't even get it through the first time. So yeah, Phil's taking up the drill. He was going to go a ranged drifter, and
Oh, I can hear thousands of dwarf voices ringing out into the no. So close, dwarf. You were so close. You almost got someone.
yeah, he was going to do it. We thought he was going to Blink Blade it up, and we got the drill because we know that that's something he wanted. We mentioned that last week. That's the only thing we mentioned last week.
Yeah, there's no other leads buried at all in that one at all. So yeah, we won't. Nothing else to talk about this episode.
So we have the drill, and we did an unboxing. And look, we obviously want people to go and have a look at that because it's a raw response to our thing of that. But yeah, how do you think that that's going to, I guess, play out with our current party and all that kind of stuff?
So two things. I think we talked about in the unboxing, but we'll expand on a bit about like how does it seem for Phil, right?
Yes.
It's a weird combination.
Because the general shtick is it's got a pressure gauge.
Yeah.
And kind of like the fast slow, but it's got like high pressure, medium pressure, regular pressure, and low pressure or something like that.
Yeah.
And he's got a token that moves up and down between them. And then each card has a pressure gauge ability or a penalty on them, depending on where that pressure gauge is there. And there's also cards that move that pressure gauge up and move it down. So you kind of have to, they're all mandatory when you go onto it. If it tells you to move it up, like do this really awesome thing and then lower your pressure. And then other times where you're really low, it's kind of like slow and fast or like weakish and strong or support and DPS. I don't know, but it's really interesting.
Yeah. So it's kind of seems similar to what he's done.
Yes.
A little bit of the Blink Blade.
Which is why it's not going to be like the craziest transition.
No, it's an interesting, it seems like a very Phil character. From what we've seen him play, I know that he was also keen on a tanky character because when I was playing the Coral, he was like, "Oh, that's really cool. That's the kind of character I would like to play as well." Like that's along that path. So this seems like it definitely has tank ability. Like I think if you look on the chart on the back, it's like high melee, high tank, low everything else. Like so,
got decent mobility. I think.
Yeah, I think
like,
there was a bit of movement. But yeah, it's going to be really interesting. But it is a lot of combo. It's only got 9 cards. Yeah, I think 9. Yeah, so it's got combo written all over it. But doesn't seem as busted as the Blink Blade in that sense.
So far.
I'm like 100% could be proven wrong once we look past the little 3 cards. But but basically cards with a whole bunch of different options on them, right? Do a thing. If you're this pressure, do another thing. If you're this pressure, do this thing instead. If you're that pressure, do this and have some penalty. So it's like your cards aren't simple. Your cards are multi-cards, right? So yes, you only have 9 cards, but in that 9, depending on where your pressure's at and what you want to do, you might have 10, 15 different options, which is cool, right? Like it's a good way of putting more selection in less cards. It's kind of one of, to flip it over, I know one of the complaints that you had about the Drifter is that you felt your turns were very samey. Like it was very powerful, but there wasn't a lot of options. It was like, okay, because they're all fairly basic and it was more about managing your resources and making sure you didn't like kind of over damage and drop your things off. Whereas at Phil's turns are going to be like, well, I could pump my pressure right up and then do this, or I could blow it down and do that. And they could all be actually using the same cards and be completely different outcomes. So that's going to be fascinating to see how many different things he's doing.
Having this chat about it has actually got me really excited for it again, just because I remember all those cards and the flexibility of it. And it's the character that he's up here, right? It's all up here. And I'm looking at, the media at the moment, which so many of the things are comboing off if I have a hazard in the right spot or if I have an obstacle in the right spot. So I'm spending a lot of time there, just like I did with the Snowflake. The Shackle was up here. So this is like the Blink Blade, an up here character, which I think is suiting him. And I think the Deathwalker was a bit more down there. So yeah. It's interesting that change.
Yeah, well, and the Meteor was down there as well.
Correct.
So it's kind of had a bit of both. Yeah. And that's what I think. This is a bit of a combo between those.
Yeah.
It does seem a little bit of a balance. So as far as our party makeup goes, I mean, when you're 100% melee, everything's great, right? Like we have
so melee heavy.
Without going into spoilers, but we'll now have 4 melee classes where we have very minimal ranged, right? Like very minimal. In fact, I'd be really interested. Maybe we do this before we record next time, or maybe tomorrow. I'm going to look at the back of everyone's cards and see what does the ranged add up to.
Yeah, okay.
And I'm pretty sure we won't even fill a bar, right? Like,
probably not. No, I've got 1 ranged attack at the moment, and Cloud of Ash. Obviously, I can do within range and blow up a thing for 1 damage. That has proven to be pretty good.
Really helpful. Yeah. I've got a couple. I don't think I've seen Mark use a ranged attack.
This is why I'm loving doing the unboxings, and I can't wait to take this further with Gloomhaven 2.0 because of the initial impressions. And that was the first card I read, and I was like, "This is such a bin card," and it's actually been good. And I like that. I like that growth, and you can actually see the initial impressions of a character from when we were unboxing it to then my reviews, which I've been putting out of that change as I discover these things on my own and their usability. So I love that.
Well, but not being able to completely evaluate a card based on just looking at it once is actually really good design. Because a card to look good or bad and then in play operate different outside of that shows that the game was working well with those. If you pick every card up and know if it's good or shit and that be actually correct, that's boring.
100%. And the Shackles video that I put up recently, a lot of people either commenting there or in our Discord or me directly to say a lot of your bin cards are actually my take cards, and I don't look at that as I got it wrong. I'm praising more the design because this is purely my experiences with it and what I enjoyed with it. It worked for me. It's not that it's busted. It's not that it's terrible. It just worked. It worked for my playstyle. Made me happy. Made me have fun, and it worked in the scenarios we did. And other people are having vastly different experiences with different cards, and I love that.
Yeah,
absolutely love that.
Yeah. So look, it'll be really interesting with our party. Very, very interesting. And I'm more looking forward to what our party might look like in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, okay.
And what that's going to do.
Okay. Is that because there's another thing coming down the line?
Maybe.
Okay.
Who knows?
Okay. I heard last week that towards the end, in the last 20 seconds.
I didn't listen to the end of it. I didn't listen to the whole episode.
Turns out they unlocked the prism.
Did they?
They unlocked the prism.
I should have.
For Gaz.
Should have listened all the way to the end.
Yeah.
Like, I just I jumped on YouTube and the Discord and I made a bunch of comments about how they missed something.
So if anyone who saw last week's and were complaining that that was Gaz's idea,
so I'll take the praise for that one. Thanks.
He was like, hey, how about we just don't mention it at all till the end? And then actually, because we did unlock the drill, just focus hard on the drill. And I was like, sure, let's do that. And it worked.
It's mine and use its back page. Like not back page, it's like page 4, right? Not front page, not back page. It's like people flip and miss it. It's, just a prism. It doesn't matter.
So that week, even before we recorded that episode, we actually did the unboxing ourselves. But you couldn't not. You were like a kid on Christmas all week.
We've been waiting months.
Yeah, literally months.
Like I'm not sure who mentioned it first. I think it might have been Weedy. When we interviewed Weedy, I think he might have mentioned the prism.
I think Dwarf may have mentioned it first.
Oh, okay.
But not on the interview with him. I think it may have been
just
separate.
in general.
Might have when he started in our Discord.
So I'm not sure about the origin of this, but basically it was suggested that would be a character I'd really like to play.
Weedy confirmed it, actually. Now that I'm going back.
Yeah.
Weedy was like, no, I agree with Dwarf.
Yeah,
with the prism.
Yeah, so since then I've been like, because we were still really new at that stage. I don't even think I might have been on the Coral at that stage, maybe not, I don't know. But we were so far away from never knowing what a prism was. We didn't look into these things. So someone being like, yeah, okay. And then that just seemed to get a bit of steam. There was a few more people being like, yeah, really keen to see Gaz play this one, see what he can do with it or see what it's all about. And then we talked about this, like, am I being trolled? Like,
Weedy was saying like, what's your most disliked class, Weedy? Like the one that you would not want to play. He's like, the prism.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's just going to melt your face off.
Oh, it's like
but they suggesting that Gaz play because no, that's fine. Like
I know. It's like someone going like, oh, what's this taste like? Oh, that's gross. Here, you should try it.
Yeah, you
like,
love this.
What? Hang on a second. What are you saying about me? Like So it's had all this momentum internally, and again, we don't know how we're unlocking it. We don't know when it's coming. So when it came out, it was really exciting. Really exciting when you just threw it down and said, we just got it. Okay, and it just made a really big bang. But it was very exciting then. But then you can't open it.
No.
I took it home and it's been sitting on my desk. I actually put things on top of it so I couldn't see it.
Yeah.
Because it happened with the banner spear. I took that home. I had to wait a week to open it. And even though we unboxed it, but I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah.
I kept seeing it every day going, I want to open that. So this one I covered with shit, so I couldn't see it. And I actually forgot about it for a couple of days. So I was like,
kind of. Like the next day he was like, so
can I open it now?
I'm at work and he's like, so can we do this tonight? And I'm like, no, we can't. I'm working late. He's like, okay, tomorrow? I was like, no, Friday. We're going to do it Friday during the day. You can wait 3 days. You got this.
Yeah, so, and then I got...
They do it like 1:30. We're going to do this at 1:30. And then it got to like 10 o'clock. He's like, hey, I can be on in like an hour or so. Do you want to jump on? And I was like, oh, wow, you were just throwing work out the window kind of thing.
No. I had some space in my day. So, so anyway, got to unbox that and got to have a look at it. I don't know how much we should say because spoilers.
No. I think you can Go into the I think you're fine. It's not really. What do you mean? Spoilers for what?
For the class, for people who haven't unlocked it.
But we do that anyway.
Yeah, I know, but I feel like because I don't know, it feels weird. Like it feels extra spoily.
Okay. Do you want to then? Because we just did the drill, actually. Do you want to then cover this in the very end, and then we can cut it? Like we can then say people. The rest of this episode is going to be about the prism.
Nah, fuck it. It's still going to be a couple of weeks before I play it, so I'm just going to talk about what I'm really excited about. Okay. I'll just talk generally.
Yeah. What is the prism, and why is it for you?
It looks really cool. It looks like a bunch of shit I've never done with a character in Gloomhaven or Frosthaven. Okay. It has an awesome theme to it. Like. I didn't read the flavor when we unboxed it. I just read all the abilities, went through the cards, and then I think it was when we finished the thing. We were just chatting, and I was reading the actual flavor on it.
Unfettered Hive something.
It is. It's like an unfettered Geminate.
Yeah,
it literally says they designed this thing to be like a Geminate, but a robot version. I was like, oh my god! So it just sounds so cool, and I've been looking through the cards. So again, only up to level 3 because that's what I'll be starting at. Looking through the cards, looking through the items, trying to work out how to itemize this. I'm pumped. I don't know if it's because I've been playing the Banosphere for like 8 years, and this is just new, but it does seem really cool.
It does. I think it's offering you endless variety, almost like flexibility with how you want to play it, just due to all the different things. And it's a pet class. It's a summon class, right?
Yeah.
Didn't expect that.
Kind of. Yeah, it is. Yes, it is. Did not expect that at all.
No. So having that, it reminds me of the Power Rangers in a way, in that you've got all your different bots, or Voltron or something, and you're controlling all of them, which is really, really cool. I think the overall, there's an old video game I'm trying to think of where it was a Micro Machine style game where you're a little chip and you just drive into different robots, and it was on the N64 or something. I can't remember, but it's now reminding me of that.
Sounds pretty cool. Want to go play that?
Yeah,
Maybe I'll do that as prep.
No. Well, I mean, yeah, you do what you want, but yeah. So yeah, is there anything that was standing out to you?
The levels. I can see now why Weedy was like melts your brain. Because looking at this initial look was like, okay, cool, I get what it's doing, right? And then I looked a bit deeper and went, okay, you could play this as a pet class, a range class, support your pets, do a bunch of stuff, and I could see it being real powerful. You can also do it as a planning 2 or 3 turns ahead, like the Geminate, because you can basically teleport between all your monsters and do attacks and move and shit like that. And that's where I see the meltingness. And I can see it as well because you can't let your shit die. So you've got to make sure, where are they going to go? Where are the monsters going to go? Well, then where am I going to go? And then is that going to be in the right place for next turn when I want to do all that?
Yeah.
So I know that I'm going to mess it up a whole bunch of times and then basically turn into a move to right attack 2 kind of low health character. A medium health character, sorry.
What we're going to have to do initially is be patient with you, because I think this is probably the character, at least in a long time, that's going to AP the shit out of you, I think, in some situations. As you're prepping, because you have to make so many considerations on positioning of, not what cards you're going to play, but also where all your stuff is, and then what everything's going to do.
Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest part, and it'll be interesting. I'm going to make sure that I'm going to be very conscious of that and make sure that I'm deliberately not taking ages. But like initially, we always give people leeway with new characters, so I'll get the new character leeway. But I
think you'll be fine after a while.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the thing. It's going to be really identifying: do I go early, do I go late, depending on where all my shit is. And I think this is, again, because I've never really played a summon character, as is evident by when we've unboxed things, I didn't know what the symbols meant. It's a case of going, well, I need to work out, A, what's the general strategy? I need to internalize the strategy of using summons, right? But B, they have to not die. Like, it's not a Bone Shaper where you go, oh, Skeleton died, well, that's right, I'll just summon another one, and that's a mild inconvenience. Oh, cool, it absorbed 10 damage, that did a great job. No. Like, these kind of have to stay alive.
Was one of the cards able to bring one back?
Yeah, there's a couple that'll let you do that.
I couldn't remember if that was for you or the drill, but the drill I don't think has pets. Yeah,
so there's one that does that, and there are a couple of items I'm eyeing off that I think I might have to get. But instead, saying that, I think there's still kind of like I think I'm going to go too hard in some places, and it's not going to be me that's dead. It's going to be all my shit. And I'm going to be like, oh... not a lot. Doesn't do a lot. So yeah, it's cool. But I'm really pumped. Because I think the ceiling is so high. Like at the moment, I'm looking at going like, I think I can hit the floor. Like I think I can get up to the floor and just be competent with it.
Yeah.
But the ceiling, I think, is going out, and that's what's been going through my head when I think about the different cards. About how do I combo the bottom of this? How do I combo 3 or 4 cards together over 2 turns to have something move and then do all these different things? So yeah. It's going to be spectacularly either terrible or amazing.
How far away is it?
I think 2 outpost phases.
Okay.
Yeah. So we did get permission from the Almighty Dwarf that he put a fix in for a suggested fix in the FAQ for the PQ I've got in the FAQ for the PQ to say that make it 12, but with Phil retiring, I just want to space out our retirements a little bit, and just more so that Phil can have a bit of the spotlight,
get used to
drill,
yeah.
And we can talk about that for a couple of weeks,
yeah.
And then we'll move into the next one, just so we don't have it all happening at once.
Yeah,
it's just better for the group if that's the case.
That makes sense, and it just means moving forward, we'll have Mark on the Fierce. I believe he's level 6. We'll have me on the media. I think I'm 4, and then we'll have a new drill who starts at 3, and then hopefully, I think by the time you retire, our prosperity will be 7. Yep. Which allows us to make it at level 4.
Actually, that means I will start at 4.
Yeah, I think so. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, that means I can look at level 4 cards.
Yeah, it is.
I can do that as soon as I get home.
Okay. we could definitely do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'd be a very interesting lineup with that thing, and I'm very excited to see how it goes because I'm having a blast on the media at the moment. I know it's a recycle class, but I'm really, really loving it. I think Mark's enjoying the Fist.
Not sure. Maybe.
I think he is.
Is he?
I think he is.
Mark, right into the podcast.
Yeah. Mark, can you let us know if you're having a good time with the Fist?
Just give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down.
That's right. And then, we got the Drill and the Prism. Perfect. Very, very much looking forward to tomorrow when we get to see the Drill active. That's the start of the new, and we have lacked that in a long time.
Yeah, it is. It's a kind of like a wave of refreshment. And that's why I want to drag it out a little bit, because I feel like we've been kind of just parched for so long, and now we have all of this like liquid goodness to make us like really satisfied, and we just need to space it out a tiny bit because it could be a while before we get more.
That's true.
Right. So
we got some time. House rules.
Where
do you want to go with this?
Why
did this come up, guys?
Why did this come up? I don't know. It was just, I think there was a couple of threads on the Reddit, a couple of conversations going on.
We like to bring this up every 20 episodes or something.
Something like that, right? And so I started thinking about it for different. I think it's through the conversation I was having with you and a couple other people. It kind of made me think about house rules in a different way, and maybe just explore something slightly we haven't explored, right? Because I don't want to talk about whether they're good, bad, or otherwise, or which house rules we do or don't use, and we will cover that slightly because it kind of covers that piece. But I just wanted to start with asking you a question, right? What's the purpose of house rules? Generally, just think generally. Don't think Frosthaven now, but just think generally.
To give more enjoyment to the game.
Yeah.
Yes, I think they're there to just streamline certain things that are potentially either frustrating or hindering people from getting the maximum enjoyment out of a game that they have invested money into.
Okay. Cool.
That is party dependent, like group dependent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and so I guess that's probably more Frosthaven specific, right? Like people making sure they change rules or add rules to make the game more fun.
Yeah, I think it's generally seen in more cooperative games than it is in competitive games.
I mean, because when you say house rules,
yes,
someone says house rules. My earliest memory of a house rule.
What is everything in Monopoly? Like
free parking.
The whole game is
a house rule. Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
everyone's playing that game wrong.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
But then we find out, like Uno, for example, the creators of Uno come out and go, that's not how that game works. And we're like, sorry, Uno, Mr. Uno, we've actually improved your game.
Yeah.
Like, you can't put that on top of that. And like, you go off. Thanks for making the game. We've improved it, right? So I guess one of the things I started thinking about was that when you make house rules, what do you make it for? So make more fun, right? Make things easier. Maybe that's making it more fun.
Well, a lot of people are playing with their kids. A lot of people are playing with their partners, and they want a more enjoyable, casual, intimate setting where they're not getting overly frustrated and they're having a good time. More positive feels, and also I think children are a big part of it. Trying to get young teenagers into it, or even younger kids. It's just I was reading something recently about I think it was a house rule, and the whole purpose of it was just because they're mostly playing with 2 kids. And they're trying to, make it better.
Yep.
Yeah.
That makes sense. What about fixing things that are broken?
Define broken.
Oh, as in like this doesn't work. Like this interaction it's overpowered, it's misprinted. Something that just didn't get errated. You go, oh, I just think this is way too powerful, so we've nerfed it. Right? We've changed it. Do you think that's a house rule? Like doing that kind of stuff? Do you think that happens? Like are people making those changes
I don't know.
to
It depends on how you
make things easier?
Find if it's a house rule. A house rule is sort of a blanket term for a fix, but if you're just making changes on the fly because you don't like one, this boss hits too hard. So it's not a house rule technically that, all bosses are now going to hit weaker, but this particular one, I don't take 8 damage, I take 4 because I want to take 4 because that's more fun.
Okay, all right. So what's the difference then? And this is kind of goes into, I guess, what we can explore. What's the difference between a house rule and a variant?
I think house rules, you're changing. I don't know. I think the house rule is changing an aspect of the game to fit your group's needs. And I think a variant is taking the core component of the game into a different direction. A lot of times variants are, there's definitely a blurred line here now that I'm saying it. But I just feel like when I think variants, a lot of the times you go into, I don't know, BGG, you go into a board game and then there's a variant tab where people almost making their own homebrew, either factions, homebrew bosses, homebrew scenarios, that kind of thing. And I sort of put those into variants. I know that the Frosthaven rulebook has a variants page at the end for, I guess, playing. Yeah. I think they're interchangeable. Because how people refer to them.
Because what made me think about that was because I've seen things on house rule posts and I love reading through them because I love seeing what problems people are having, how they're solving them. It's really interesting. I don't like the negativity that comes along with people like, oh, we saw this and we did this. And regardless of what you think, people go, well, you're playing it wrong. You're dumb. You're stupid. You're shit at the game, right? I'm like,
I love that.
You're not needed.
I love reading that.
That comment is not needed. We have enough toxicity in the world. We don't need people going in and telling people that the way they're having fun with a board game that they paid for is wrong, right? Like, cool. You can.
I agree. I 100% agree, except when I see the post and I see the question and we change this to make it easy, in my head I'm like, oh, okay, hopefully someone has, yep, there he is. And then I'm like, yeah, and then the popcorn comes out. And then,
But seriously, if you're that person, you can just scroll on, or you can say something constructive of like, that's really interesting. We wouldn't play it like that because we prefer this to happen and I like this randomness. But just don't shit on people.
It's the
just
internet,
stop.
though.
Yeah, it is
it's
the internet.
elitism. It's all of that kind of stuff.
True. Yeah, you got to bring a bit more zen. But the going back to what made me think is that a variant in the Frosthaven rulebook is that you replace the -2 and the crit and the miss with a -2 and +2, right? That makes sense. I said it the wrong way, but we make it. Yeah,
I know what you mean.
Whereas there's people that say they house rule this. It's like, oh, if you draw a miss, it just doesn't count, or you have to redraw. Or if you draw 2 misses in a row, or you reshuffle and you draw a miss straight away, which, I mean, hello, that's my thing, right? Like, you just don't do it. So that's where I started to go, well, hang on. There is a variant in that. And you're choosing not to use the variant, but then you're choosing to make up your own house rule.
Well, their house rule's on the fly, almost.
Well, yeah. I mean, they're doing it because it happened too many times, right? And then it becomes their variant. So I guess the two things are the same, but I guess variants tend to seem more official. So it's either officially in the book, or it's officially agreed by the community, whatever game it is, to be like, this is an accepted way of playing, probably because in some form of tournament setting, people need to know that that's a thing that can happen. Like, oh, you're playing with this DLC, this mod, that type of stuff, right? Like I said, extra factions and things like that. But I was just interested to see, like, why are people doing that? Like, and I guess fun is it?
Well, yeah, you'd also have to go down how far this +2 -2 example thing going on right now, right? Is that playing to the monsters as well? Like, are they also doing that for creatures, right? It's because then it's a blanket rule that kind of evenly affects everything in the game, right? It's if your +2, if your miss is a -2, right, and your crit. I mean, do you keep the crit? Or do you even it out by saying, no, if I'm taking the miss, that's +2. But then I'm doing that for the monsters as well. Like, how far, are people going down this path? They're not necessarily explaining it all.
Because it's interesting, because I don't know the odds of it all, but specifically looking at that type of one, I think that there is an element that it's different between players and monsters because monsters attack so much more frequently, right? It's like in role-playing games. You play D&D, you play these things, and you change the crit rules. And I've been part of these sessions where they're like, oh, we feel crits aren't impactful enough. Let's make crits do quadruple damage and max dice damage, and so you can cut off limbs. And then you realize the monsters are going to crit way more often than players. It's like, no, but this is more fun. And then someone gets like their head lobbed off, and you're like, oh, let's not use that variant anymore because it's not fair.
Yeah.
Right. And I wonder about how that factors in, because you're right, consistency is fine, going like, well, for the monster deck and the player deck, but is that the right thing to do? And how much does that change the game? And again, it doesn't really matter because it's not competitive. It's not like, oh, well, we're playing competitive Frosthaven against another group, and we got here first and you got there, and like, haha, but you're using these rules, right? That doesn't really matter. But that just made me start thinking about, well, what other ones are there? And as I was going through these threads on the house rules, I was kind of thinking, again, what's the point, right? So some of the other ones, just for our sake, right, that we use. We don't shuffle the battle goals back into the deck. All right. So when we complete a battle goal, right, it goes into a separate pile, which we don't shuffle back in, and we work through the deck until we have less than 12, so we can't deal out 3 to everybody, and then we reshuffle back in.
Yes.
What's the purpose of that?
It's purely from a variety point of view. We want to see more of them. Look, we're also in a weird situation where we are documenting our playthroughs in a way, so we want to make them a little bit more interesting, a little bit spicier where we can. So that aside, I just think it's more fun. Otherwise, we're picking you pick the same ones all the time. You're going to be completing the same ones all the time. It gets incredibly predictable. This also increases the spiciness. I like increasing the challenge without necessarily doing it with raw numbers, where when you get down to those 15 left, you're essentially they're the 15 that either are getting failed multiple times or no one's picking.
Yeah.
So then shit hits up another level, and it becomes its own mini game of, guys, we just need to beat another 3 or another 4 of these things, and we can cycle it through again. So it just puts an extra emphasis on, come on, we can do this.
Yeah.
Let's try and nail these last 4.
And then it's like opening a new bag of cookies, right? Because once we got below 12, you open it up and you're like, oh, all the good ones are back.
Yeah.
It's like someone bought a box of favorites and they haven't just left all the coconut
They left all the bounties,
Yeah. So, no, I agree. And just for the record as well, this wasn't our house.
And that makes it harder.
We took it off someone
We did.
Early on. But I think early on we found that maybe the first month, maybe 2 months, it was just cycling through, right? Like we had the same ones, like
Slowpoke and things like
stuff
that.
like that. Yeah, that were just there's a couple of 2-tick ones that are pretty easy, especially for a lot of classes, like the burn 2 cards one seems okay. And I know for some of those it'd be terrible, like on the fist, for example, and even the trap things with low card hand sizes would suck, but there was a lot of that was super easy for. So this does add that variety. It makes it harder, but adds variety.
Yeah.
We're doing random pets.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
Now I think that was purely from an entertainment value, right?
It is. If we weren't doing the pod, do you see a world where we suggest it?
Or now that we've done random, we can't not do random.
Correct.
Right? Like if we started off picking, then I feel like we wouldn't go to random if we weren't recording anything. But because we've started now, even if we stopped recording tomorrow, I feel like we'd still keep doing random.
Yeah. If we could choose right now forever, it'd be like a stew for the healing and maybe ward for the stand pot, and you'd kind of stick with the same 2. You'd be hard pressed to go, I don't know, Weedy, I don't know what you've done. Like, this guy can heal all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
100%. I think that's the problem. I think is that they're not all great. They are better, and so it's easier to pick the better ones.
Yeah.
I think that the only difference would be that there are some that are going to be more suited to certain scenarios.
Yes.
Like we got the Black Ink Want Dog. In certain situations, we're going to be like, now that's going to come really useful, so we would choose that. But yeah, for the most part, I'd stick with random.
Yep.
Start. Okay, so we're leveling up. Right, so creating a new character. We're about to go through this a couple of times.
Yep.
We start at level 1.
Yes.
And we start at the level that we start at based on prosperity. So say level 3 at the moment with HP.
Yeah.
But we choose to start with level 1 cards.
Yeah, we don't pick our cards yet.
Yeah. And we're also, this kind of goes along with all this as well, we're not looking at the future cards.
No.
What's the point of doing that?
It's I think that one's a little bit different. I think that's from because if we weren't doing the pod, I think we'd still be doing that, because that's kind of how we did it in Gloomhaven. It's the element of surprise. And I think this goes back to a while back where even someone mentioned when we were doing our Bannersby unboxing, we were like 6, 8, 9 months into our campaign and still getting excited over a starter class because we've done it this way. So every time we level up, we're excited. It keeps giving us the dopamine hit over and over again because we have restrained ourselves from looking at everything.
Yeah.
And I think we know going into the next Gloomhaven 2.0, it's going to be the same again because we know that we're going to get those doses of hits throughout the thing, which it feels good the whole way. You go right in the beginning and you look up, cool, what class do I want to unlock first? How do I get to it? Okay, do I actually want it? I'm going to look at all the cards and how it works. There's nothing wrong with that. You will get the biggest rush of dopamine, of excitement ever in the world, then and there. And then that's it.
That's it,
right?
yeah.
And we just prefer it this way. We still get it at the beginning, right? To us, it's still very exciting to jump into a new campaign, but it just means every event and every thing that pops up in the game is always a surprise, and it's always something for us to look forward to. Leveling up becomes super exciting.
Yeah.
Right? So this, in a way, is, I would say, an overall nerf, even though it's in the rules. Oh, sorry, it's not in the rules. I don't think it's in the rules where you can't look ahead.
No, not at all.
So I think it's just a variant that is a personal one to give us more enjoyment. That is a nerf because we can't then plan ahead to make sure that we're picking the exact right cards. If I want to build my character around a level 8 card, I don't know it exists, so I don't know what to build up for it. And it's part of the journey and experience.
So the argument against that I hear and would see is that it also means that you can't build towards the lines that the character is designed around, right? Like sometimes you don't know that you should have chosen a certain card at level 3 because there's a level 5 card that not just synergizes with it, but the level 5 unlocks a certain build. And if you haven't taken the level 3 card, you just can't go that way anymore. So do you think that's a negative?
I think it's incredibly group dependent. If you, let's just say right now, Gaz, we want to play Diablo 4. All right, we're going to go in there. Let's look up a build. We look up a build of how to play Diablo 4. Play this exact build to maximize every piece of damage. Now, you need the gear on the way, which is the farming part, but if you play this exact build, I can guarantee you're going to do maximum damage. To some people, that is the fun, right? It's right there. If you're sitting in a group of people playing Frosthaven right now and you look up exactly how you want to build the perfect character to the point where it's not broken or OP, but it's reaching its absolute maximum. If four people are doing that, that's not fun to me. Now, that will be fun for a lot of people and fun in the group, but doing the absolute best that you can, there's something better about working it out yourself, right? And this is why I think it means more to me, and that's why we do it this way, because that to me is just a more fun, organic experience. Yes, I miss out on a key card or a key build, and I'm like, oh, there's that there, etc. But at the same time, it's like, well, I'm a big fan of MacGyver rules with Dota. Well, this is what I picked. I'm going to make the best out of this opportunity.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're all rocking the best of the best, and then it's kind of like, it could be fun to a degree. But I like the struggle. I don't know. I like the struggle and the slow build and the progression of making it click and getting better, which is kind of what, going back to the unboxing, going, this card's crap. Oh, wait, it's actually not too bad. I wonder if I can actually make something use of this. And then later on down the line going, there's something that actually benefits that one more. I don't know. It's discovery. This whole game is discovery to me.
Yeah.
And I'm enjoying discovering every aspect of it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So the other thing we don't look at as well is buildings. So not just unlock the buildings, but according to the rules, you're allowed to look through all the level upgrades.
Absolutely.
So we have no idea what's coming up. So we are also going into unlocking a building and having no idea if it's any good or not. Right?
And we've done that. We've upgraded it and got,
'cause they're all shit.
hopefully this will have an impact. Like the Carpenter, for example, when we upgraded that, it was like, is it going to remove 2 resources from the next thing we build? And it's like, no, if you double build, you lose. You don't burn a second morale. You only burn 1. It's like, wow. If we had known that,
if we'd known,
known
that, we could have gotten through our morale problems.
Exactly.
So.
But no, again, it's a surprise, and you take the good with the bad. It's all part of the journey, because at the end of the day, I don't know how repeatable Frosthaven is going to be unless we go digital. So this is our story, right? And that's what's important to me. I don't want it doesn't have to be the very best on paper story. It's our complete story, right? From failures and struggles to conquering stuff and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, okay, cool. So the last thing I'll ask is, because most of the house rules that I see are things around looting. There's a lot around looting. So like people have a problem with the loot being on the ground, finishing the scenario, not collecting it, not wanting to again, spend half an hour APing of we've got one monster, let's just not kill it, we'll just move around the thing, let's just collect it. Treasures, things like that. So that's one camp that I see a lot of stuff around. Another one is items. So, it doesn't make any sense, we can't trade items. Or this person gets all the items and they just want to distribute them, or stuff like that. And I've seen different ones where you just give them to them.
Mm-hmm.
You've seen other ones where people, if you get something you don't want, I think one of the examples was
Sell it to someone for what you would sell it to
the shop. Yeah. Which again, it's like a halfway, right? Like you're not just giving it to them, but you're saying, so that stuff. And then, so there's those items. And then there is all the amD stuff. And then that kind of game like in-game stuff goes to the extreme where I've seen some people suggest, you get to control all the summon actions and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like,
they don't have an autopilot.
Which is fine. And I saw a conversation on that. And I think that it would just bog the game down, to be honest. I think that's the biggest problem with it. But other than that, it changes everything. Those ones there. So if we're talking about loot, we're talking about items and stuff like that. I guess, like, and this is the last thing on that. Is that changing the game too much? Ignoring people's fun, because obviously if it's all to just do the fun, but is that changing the game too far away, do you think, from what it's designed to be, where it's a potentially different experience?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's I look for taking away from the playing with your kids and family and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, it's your game. Do what you want. I think it changes so much of the what's the word I'm looking for? Urgency. There's another word I want, where the agency of selecting your cards. Obviously, you don't bring loot cards if you're just going to divvy up the loot at the end of the game, right? That's one decision that's made easier for you. Okay. Part of the whole process is obviously, do I go in and do I loot? Having loot tokens all over the board, it messes up your future plans because you kind of want to collect them on the way, which means you're not moving most optimally for each move. That's the risk reward of the whole thing about looting. With the item thing, items are usually tied behind chests. Now you get some otherwise, which if you get it during an event, most times you can then give it to whoever you want. But it's tied to a chest. You know this going into the game. You know this is baked into the rules. So therefore, if you are the level 9, bling blade with all your items, etc., don't loot the chests. Even though you have the easiest time doing it, earn it. So the person who then you don't know what the item is. I mean, hell, you may as well go one extra step and look up what the item is before you're looting it to see who needs it, right? But if you want the randomness of, we'll see what happens. But the person who's probably going to most likely need the items because they're the lowest level and they're going to need help in this department, either from the item itself or selling the item, let them get it. That's part of the risk reward of go use your turn, play suboptimally to then get to that loot token. Otherwise, the fastest person, all right, is just giving everyone else the easier time, and that urgency is gone. All of a sudden, this guy doesn't need to spend his turns trying to get to the chest. He can just sit there and still do maximum damage and maximum everything else, while this guy's going to also do that whilst go over, quickly pick up the item, and then send it over to this guy. And I think it just makes it so much easier, like so much easier, which is fine, what we're talking about. I personally don't like it, right? I personally like the stresses of working out, like that crab boss that we came up against. I had to sit there and go, well, I'm the lowest level in here right now at the time or something. I want that item. I'm going to have to go out of my way to get it. And I got my ass absolutely handed to me for it. But I was determined to get the item, right? And then Phil was like, oh, do you want me to go get it? And I was like, no, mate. Oh, sorry. Do you want me to kill the boss first and then get it in the
all
same
the way
turn?
over the other side of the room?
And I was like, hell no.
Yeah.
Like, if it's something that I wanted to earn, otherwise I'd be like, yeah, go get it for me.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Go get it for me, and I'll just sit here and up the meters, which also are a house rule that aren't really a thing, right?
That's true. We haven't talked about that. Yeah.
No. So yes, I do believe that. I definitely see why people are doing it, and I don't hate it for that. I would hate to play in that group, with that rule. Is what I mean. I would hate to play with that variety.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That makes. Yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense.
I believe it's so much on the cards that you're playing and those decisions you make. That's what makes this game so crunchy. Is every place you move is going to have implications, So getting freebies handed to you removes that agency.
Yeah, I suppose that's probably it. The way that it was designed with Gloomhaven, and Frosthaven's continued that, is that they give you these choices, right? You have complete control over what you do, right? Because you get to pick your cards. You don't control over what the monsters do. You got battle goals, which then start pushing you in directions maybe to play suboptimally.
Yeah.
You have loot, which then pushes you to play suboptimally. You have treasures, which suck people in. And all of those things are just slight kind of tweaks. They're mutators, sorry, that just potentially make you play worse. And that's what's supposed to kind of maybe keep the difficulty in check, right? Because I feel if you're playing with some of these variants, and again, if you're doing all of those, you're probably doing it because you're with a group that it's more about the fun of getting through the story and having cool moments than it is about having a difficult game, which makes sense. But it just seems to me that those things are making the game easier, which does mean you probably need to bump up the difficulty. But yeah, it's fascinating because it keeps coming up. It's one of those things that you see sometimes with games or board games or just situations, right? And it'd be an outlier, right? Like there's this one situation, this one rule, this one person wants to do this one thing. And you go, okay, cool. That's an outlier. You do whatever you want if you want to do it, right? Just make sure it's okay with your group and go. But these ones keep coming up. Like pretty consistently you will see people. And then when the threads start, people talk about it like, yeah, we do that or we do this. Or some form of variant will go through. So it seems really common. Like it's like a common, I'll say problem. I don't think it's an issue with the game, but it's a common problem or challenge or hurdle that people get to that they don't like. And it's interesting to see if it does get solved. I think it got changed. I think the problem got shifted to different areas in Gloomhaven because it's not just coins, right? It made looting more important, but also less personal because you're getting resources and most of the resources go to Frosthaven.
Right.
So now it doesn't matter if one person's hoarding most of the loot because they're probably just giving it all to Frosthaven anyway.
Yes.
So that kind of fixes it.
Yeah.
But I'm interested to see as the game keeps evolving, these things that people don't like, if they start putting in things to not change and not fix and that, but just shift it again slightly to make it so there's less people that want a house rule or variant, this type of stuff, right? Or that need to in order to have fun. Like it's fascinating. I'm not looking for a solution and I know everyone does it differently, but I'm just fascinated to see how it evolves.
Yeah. Okay. Here's the thing that I want to just say out that I've been thinking about it for a while.
Oh, no.
Okay.
The people.
Here's the spice,
everybody. Get your popcorn out.
So the people who are constantly coming forward with fixes, right, for the game, and they're just saying, we don't like this, so we select whatever card we want when we level up and we can interchange them, etc. People who are making all of these changes to the game for it because it's more fun, these are the people that shouldn't be asking rule clarifications, right? About how this works and how that works, because it doesn't make sense to me. I suppose working out something, how I guess it's supposed to work, but it's almost like you've altered the game already. Do it how you see fit, is what I'm saying.
But what if they want to play the game like 90% pure, but they just want to change? No, you can't.
No, you can't.
You're saying you can't.
No, you can't just make up the rules and do whatever you want for more fun, because honestly, it makes sense, all right? The boss is confusing. I'm not sure who he's focused on. Well, you decide how is more fun for you for him to focus, right? Does that make sense? Oh. So if something's doing, if it moves forward, does it maximize its disadvantage on us on a ranged attack if it's targeting 3, etc.? No. Just do it. Do whatever you think would be more fun. You're already altering the game so much. It's not going to matter if you alter it this way. That's where I sit on that. Yeah, okay. Right? The people like that we are asking questions about kind of rules and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, like we obviously are trying to play it as raw as possible, minus a couple of the tweaks that we're making it slightly harder. And as a result, we're not bumping the difficulty up. Right? At the moment, we're sitting on a +1 or +0 or whatever it is. But yeah, I just think like the people who are altering the game so much, don't ask how something's supposed to work, right? Because you could just do it yourself. Do whatever you want.
You heard it here.
Do whatever you want.
Do whatever you want. That's what Detty says. That's his motto.
Enjoy the game however you want.
But just don't ask. Once you've changed one thing, you're actually not allowed to.
You don't need to.
You don't need to. You just do whatever you want.
Because you're not playing it raw anyway.
I disagree a little bit. I think that some people might want to do most things fine and they change a couple of things. But I get your point is that if they then disagree with...
I get what you mean.
Yeah.
It's a pet peeve if more than anything. It's just a trigger.
Yeah.
That's all.
I think for me, and just to wrap this up, that because this is almost where it started. Like I had a conversation, got to this point I'm about to say, and then kind of worked my way backwards to explore it a bit more. Is that I think the thing that confuses me, I won't say frustrates, but it's just bizarre to me, is that people will ask for a clarification, add in their own variant or house rule about how something works, and then try to argue to say that it makes the game better. Like this is how it should be because I think it's more fun that way. And it's this weird complex that people have of like, I'm doing a thing, so now I have to justify it to everybody. And if everyone agrees with me, then the thing I'm doing is fine. And there's an element of that, it seems, with these house rules. It's like, I'm doing this and it's really drastically different to how it's written. Is anyone else doing that? And then they need a few people to be like, yes. But when they say no, they're like, well, you're wrong. It's like, well, hang on, I'm wrong because I don't agree that your variant is fixing the game that's not broken.
Yeah.
And that's the part that I think people need to chill out. It's like, it's one thing to say, okay, people jump on those threads and they get real toxic and say people are wrong and like they shit on people's house rules. But then there's also these people coming out with house rules that shit on people that say, hey, that's not really how the game works. And they're like, well, I do what I want. It's better now. And like, oh, okay. So yeah, it's an interesting ecosystem, right? And it's everyone just trying
made
to
better and worse by the internet.
way worse, right? Way worse.
Yes.
So but it's fascinating. It's fascinating. And look, I implore anybody to play the game and have fun.
Yes.
Try to play as close
100%.
as you can to the rules because I think there is intricacies that you will not realize. And one of the threads I actually looked up was someone going from Jaws the Lion, Gloomhaven into Frosthaven, I think it was, and they hadn't started. And they were like, what variant should I start with? And I think the overwhelming, I thought it was overwhelming because it's the people I agreed with, but a good chunk of people were like, play the game first. Like, play the game before you start changing things.
Yeah.
And I think it's a dangerous mindset to get into, especially with things like Gloomhaven and Frosthaven that they've spent so much time playing it. Not to say they got it perfect, right? And they've had to make erratas and changes and fixes and suggestions over the time. But it's so many systems all working together that I think when you just pluck one out, you don't know what the flow-on effect is. And I really, like, I'm sure it's happened, but I hope that they don't. People who make this change at the start with, say, the loot system, and then 40 scenarios in go like, what's the point of
loot and having building costs and all that? We're overflowing with resources and all that kind of stuff. Outpost phase is boring because we're never starving. It's like, yeah.
Which is the opposite of the people going like, this game's impossible and no one can ever do anything and none of my cards do anything and everyone dies instantly, so the game needs to be changed. It's like, you can't know everything everyone's doing, but I feel like there's like that PSA on like, if you're going to change the rules, assume it's a wallpaper effect and something else is just going to blow up later on.
Yep.
But yeah, anyway, it's interesting.
I'm just going to touch on that and continue it for a second.
Yeah.
The other thing about, I guess, the people I mentioned earlier, the people, house rules and all that kind of stuff, the internet obviously is a wonderful place to get information and come together and to share, all that kind of stuff. It's also full of elitists, narcissistic and just people, right? It's got a lot of those kind of people in there. The people who, it's a board game, right? But you got people who, and I think it might have been, I can't remember if it was Ricewin or Dang, someone said, don't yuck someone else's yum, right? And I know that I've heard that term before, but you get the people in here who is like, no, you're playing it wrong. You're playing it wrong. Now I played that character and I did this. I can 80 shot anything right now, etc. These guys are the ones that potentially, why? Just enjoy whatever other people are putting out there and their experiences with the game. Don't shit on it, which is what you said at the very start. When it comes to people suggesting their house rules, it's the same thing with like making suggestions for how someone should play something. We're to remove that, but you just if you're doing the house rules, right, and you're doing the variants, don't come in and then get all egotistical about how amazing your campaign's going because you've got all these house rules that are making it easier, and then getting an ego. That's just another thing that it's a pet peeve.
Yeah, exactly. And be polite to the people on the internet because it's a small community, even though there's a lot of people playing Frosthaven, Gloomhaven, like it still is a small subsect of the people who are playing it that are on that space in the Discord, on the Reddit. And the people that reply are probably trying to help because they've played it a lot. So when they say, here's how the rules work, this is going to affect that, and you're suggesting something else, be inquisitive and understand why. Don't shit on the people trying to help you.
No, be nice to Dwarf.
Be nice to Dwarf because he spends a lot of time and he's a really angry man, right? And yeah,
the man's got a lot of patience.
He has a lot of patience. Yeah. So
no, thanks for that. Good chat. We'll see how many dislikes we get after this.
If you have any house rules you think that we would benefit from, and you know what our group likes, throw them out there, right? Because if they're little things that make the game harder, we tend to.
We're always looking for those.
Yeah. Can we make it harder without any benefit to us?
Yeah,
that's what we want.
Yeah. So we're going to rotate. I think a good house rule would be at the start of any scenario, shuffle the characters, and then I get Prism, basically. And then
Okay,
you get
yeah.
media and all that. And
Sure,
then
why not?
play,
We
see what
should
happens.
just shuffle all the ability cards into one big deck and then just evenly throw them out, right?
That could be fun. That
ability
could actually be
ability
fun.
draft.
That would be
Frosthaven.
that would be actually fun. I wouldn't mind doing that.
Yeah. So
No, well, thanks for joining us on an episode. I want to say 77, but we did scenario 77, so I'm going to say 57 because that sounds way more accurate. Of a master's degree in rolling terribly. I have been Detty. I have been joined by Gaz.
and when it comes to not knowing where to look when you're doing the outro, it's all in the wrist.